Okay, so everybody loves the Tesla Cybertruck, right?
Well, at least that's what it feels like.
Right, it's like the coolest thing on four wheels.
Yeah.
Well, the Irvine PD, they obviously agree because they just added one to their fleet.
Decked out.
Oh yeah, full police gear. We're talking lights, sirens, the works. But here's the catch. It's not your average Cybertruck. This is the Cyberbeast model.
Okay, now that's a name.
And it comes with a hefty price tag. Over $150,000. That's more than a lot of luxury cars. So naturally, people are asking, is this a smart move for the Irvine PD, or is this just a very expensive publicity stunt?
Well, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting, right? I mean, on the surface, it's a shiny new toy for the police department, but when you really dig into it, it brings up these really important questions about priorities and how we allocate resources, especially when we're talking about something as essential as law enforcement.
Yeah, and that's what we're here to unpack. So, to kick things off, we got to address the elephant in the room, or should I say, the Cybertruck in the parking lot. 150 grand, that's a lot of dough. And we know you're thinking is it really worth it?
Right, because at the end of the day, that's taxpayer money.
Exactly. So let's break down the arguments. The Irvine PD, their main defense, is that this Cybertruck is actually a cost saver in the long run.
Okay, I've heard that argument before. How so?
Well, think about it. Your typical gas-guzzling patrol car, those things, they're beat up, they're run down, they're constantly needing repairs. They last, what, maybe 3 to 5 years, tops?
Yeah, you're lucky if you get that much out of them with the amount they get driven.
Exactly. Now, this Cybertruck, electric engine, built like a tank, they're estimating it'll last over 10 years. Plus, no more gas bills, way less maintenance. Suddenly, that price tag doesn't seem so outrageous.
I mean, it's definitely a different way of looking at it, thinking long-term investment rather than just the initial sticker shock.
And, Sergeant Davies, he's the public information officer over at Irvine PD, he was quoted saying, this thing will likely pay for itself within 7 years just in fuel and maintenance savings alone.
Okay, so they've done the math. But still, that initial investment, though, that's where the critics come in, right?
Big time. Professor Capers, he's a law professor over at Fordham, and he specializes in police reform. He's skeptical, to say the least. He says, sure, maybe this Cybertruck is more durable. But his big question is, are those savings, the ones from not buying as many patrol cars down the line, are those actually going to be reinvested back into the community? Things like community outreach programs or better officer training. Or is this just a case of budget shifting, making it look like they're saving money when really they're just spending it on something else?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because it's one thing to say we'll save money in the future. But if that money isn't earmarked for something specific, how can we be sure it's actually benefiting the community in the long run?
It's a valid point. And it's not like the Irvine PD is hurting for resources. They have a relatively large budget for a city of its size. So some people are saying this money could have been put to better use elsewhere.
Right, and that brings us to the other big piece of this puzzle. The whole reason Irvine PD says they bought this Cybertruck in the first place. Community engagement, specifically with their DARE program.
Okay, so for those who don't know, DARE, that's Drug Abuse Resistance Education. It's a program that's been around for decades, aims to teach kids about the dangers of drug use.
Right, trying to steer them in a positive direction early on.
Exactly. And the Irvine PD's thinking is, what better way to get kids excited about DARE than with a futuristic Cybertruck, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's got that cool factor. It's something different. It's not your typical squad car.
And I'm sure the kids love it. I mean, if I saw a Cybertruck pull up when I was a kid, I'd be pretty stoked.
Oh, yeah. They're going to be lining up to check it out, maybe even snag a selfie with it.
Exactly. Instant Instagram moment.
But, and this is a big but, will it actually make a difference when it comes to preventing drug abuse?
Right, because that's the crux of the issue, isn't it? Optics versus impact.
And that's what a lot of these critics are saying. A flashy car might turn heads, but will it actually lead to any meaningful change in behavior?
Especially when you consider that the research on DARE itself, it's kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah, I was going to say, DARE's been around for a while, and there's been a lot of debate about its effectiveness.
Right, some studies have shown that it can have a positive impact, but others have found that it doesn't really move the needle when it comes to preventing drug use in the long term.
Yeah. And in fact, some experts argue that programs that focus on things like building strong community ties, addressing mental health issues, getting to the root causes of why people might turn to drugs in the first place, those are actually more effective.
And that's what Professor Capers is advocating for. He says this money, the $150,000, could have been used to fund those evidence-based programs, ones that have a proven track record of success.
So it really begs the question, Is this Cybertruck a futuristic crime-fighting machine, or is it just a very expensive PR stunt?
Well, and that's what we want you to think about, right? Is it possible for it to be both? Because it's not always black and white.
Right. There's a lot of gray area here.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of these deep dives. We're not here to give you a definitive answer. We're here to present the facts, the different perspectives, and let you draw your own conclusions.
Exactly. So what do you think? Is the Irvine PD's Cybertruck a smart investment in the future of law enforcement, or is it a high-tech gimmick? Let us know your thoughts. And as always, the conversation doesn't end here. We encourage you to keep digging, keep asking those tough questions, because that's how we learn and grow.